Hey everyone, John here. Welcome back to part 2 of this fiery text tutorial in which we're using Particle Illusion's new particle masking feature in Continuum 2023.5. Now, in the previous tutorial, I did a breakdown of how I use particle masking to create this fiery text look. This time, what we're going to do is try and make it look a little more realistic by creating some custom particles using stock footage. And we'll play around with some of the settings to see if we can just make it look a little better. All right, let's go. Okay, so if you've downloaded the project file or if you've got the file open that you used from the previous tutorial, that's great. You will have to find your own stock footage though. I'm using good old Action Essentials 2. It's a bit dusty on my shelf, but definitely came in handy for this. You may have that on your shelf too. What we'll do first of all is let's solo layer 5. And this is using Particle Illusion's own default flames particle. It doesn't look too bad. Let's go into Particle Illusion and take a look. So we'll click Launch Particle Illusion. And if you haven't got the setup that I have, just come up to View and choose Load Layout Edit. I'm just going to make this a little bigger, these nodes, and there we go. So Particle Illusion is recognizing the mask that we have set up. And it doesn't look too bad. Now, there's a few things we could do with this. One thing is obviously change the particle. If you double click the particle on the node, that'll open up the particle shape editor. And this is the one that's being used. It's got 24 frames. You can click this arrow and just cycle through those, just step through those. So it's a real flame. And it doesn't look too bad. Notice how it does have color. When you import a shape, you can choose either black or white or color. We just cancel that. What's happening is that Particle Illusion isn't using the color of the particle. It's actually using this gradient. If you want a particle to use the particle's own color, there's a couple of things you have to do. First thing is click on the gradient and click Clear to make that white. It makes the particles white, but don't worry. Click Apply. And we also have to make sure, if we select the emitter, that tint strength is at 0. Okay, so make sure that's at 0. And also come back to the particle node and make sure that intense, this is important, intense is deselected. Okay, so now we're using the particle's own color. And it's a little bit washed out, but it does look a little more realistic than the gradient does. And remember, with the gradient, we just double click to turn that one off. With the gradient, there's a couple of choices. There's full gradient. So over the particle's life, it goes from black to yellow through to this deep orange. Or there's random gradient, where it will choose a color randomly from the gradient for each particle. Neither of them really looks like fire. So it's probably better to use the fire's own color. Because remember, fire's kind of, very hot in the middle, and then it gets, progressively, more orange on the outside. So I just wanted to point that out. We're not actually going to use this particle. We're going to create another one, but I just wanted to point that out. So what we'll do is, once again, go back into the particle editor. I'm just going to double click to turn this one back on. There we go. Double click on the particle, and we're going to import a particle. Now, I've already made a particle sequence for this. We click on Import Shape. I'm going to show you how to create a sequence in a moment so you can do this. And it's going to find where mine is. Mine's in Particles. This one here, Torch Windy. So once again, this is from Action Essentials 2. And you can see I've exported from After Effects as a PNG sequence. And there's quite a few. There's about 71 frames. I haven't used the entire clip. So I'm going to select the top one, click Open. So by default, it wants to go grayscale. I'm going to choose full color. And you can scale the image up to 2048, but that will slow things down. I'm going to keep mine at 256 and click Apply. There we go. And this is a lot more rich and vibrant, isn't it? You can already see the difference that that's making. Okay, now I'm going to click apply. That's looking really nice. I don't think we need this other one. I'm going to delete that. So it's already looking better, definitely. I'm not really liking how the particles are sort of fading in and fading out. That doesn't look very realistic, does it? I might just make a few adjustments to this by clicking on the alpha over life gradient. And I'm going to bring that right back to probably just to there and there, like that. How does that look? Better. They're still sort of fading out. I think what's going to be better with this is to keyframe the particle number so that we have a consistent number of particles. So you can either keyframe the number on the particle or on the emitter. I'll just choose the particle. And number is at 3. So what we'll do is come right back to the beginning, click to set a linear keyframe, and just move forward 1 frame and make that 0. Okay, so now we play that back. They don't really last that long. So what's life set to? Life set to 150, which is quite high. What about the emitter? Life on the emitter is only 15. Let's make that 100. Okay, so you see the difference? Now they're not being born and dying. It looks a bit weird with flames when that happens. It's better if they're just there the entire time. Obviously, the amount of life or the length of the life that you'd want would depend on the length of your sequence. But that's not looking too bad. Not bad at all. So I'll click apply. Oh wow, it looks a lot different, doesn't it? And bring back the wood. Oh, that looks much better. Really nice. We've got this second one here. Now we could go and do the whole thing again. I'd probably be more likely just to delete that layer. Duplicate. Actually, before I do that, undo that. Just going to grab. What do I need? No, I'm going to use Fire 2, aren't I? So if you watched the previous tutorial, you'll know why I used Fire 2. So we will delete that one. And we'll duplicate this one, grab the bottom one, and we'll choose Mask Layer Fire 2, because remember, Fire 2 has the blur applied. Okay? We also need to, again, choose not Particle Creation, Particle Mask Standard. That way we won't see the particle beyond the edges of the layer. But we are seeing a little bit because Fire 2 has BCC blur applied. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, definitely watch part 1 of this series. Okay, that may or may not look good, we'll see. Okay, so we've got our embers and we haven't got our smoke yet. Might just do a little preview. Okay, so that's looking pretty nice, isn't it? Much more realistic. I think this is not looking so great. I don't think that's really working. So what I'll probably do is just forget that. Get rid of that. Turn on the smoke. Smoke makes a big difference, and we're going to look at tweaking the smoke in a moment. I think the embers are fine as well. So, as you can see, particle choice can make a big difference to how realistic these can look. Very nice. And of course, I'm only using one piece of stock footage here, and it doesn't look that bad because the particles are offset. They're not all moving at the same, they're not all moving in sync. But if you used multiple different pieces of stock footage as particles, you could make this look even more realistic. All right, let's take a look at the smoke. I'm just going to turn all of that off and have a look at the smoke. Overall, the smoke doesn't look too bad, but what I'd like to do is try and use a piece of stock footage of smoke and see if that improves it. There are a couple of small things I could do to this as well, even without the stock footage. So I'm going to launch Particle Illusion again, and just a little bit of cleanup here. Just going to delete the embers. rid of that one. There's a couple of different smoke particles here. This one's using smoke 7. So it's a single frame. It's not a sequence. And this one's using smoke 7 _ 000. Looks kind of similar. Looks like it's just been rotated. Now, because various settings have been adjusted, things like spin and spin variation, the particles are rotating as they're moving, and they kind of look like smoke. It's not that bad. Definitely gets a little weird looking when you see ones that are away from the rest of the smoke. And you can see how that's basically mirrored. It looks weird. It's not really moving in a really organic way. Not too bad. We could probably, adjust the opacity. Where's opacity? Just bring that down a little bit. Probably a little bit strong. And maybe for this one as well, just bring the opacity down. That could help. Yeah, not too bad. All right, so I'm going to change the particle, but first of all, I've got to create it. So I'm just going to apply that. That does look better. It's not so thick in these areas. So let's see. I've got this piece of footage, and this is WISP01, once again from Action Essentials 2. I'm going to drop that into a comp. Now, I haven't tried this yet, so we're going to see whether it works. So here's a little wisp. It is coming up from the bottom. I'm not sure how useful it's going to be. I don't want it too big, so I'm going to make it, I'll make it 512 by 512. Can always import it at a smaller size than that into Particle Illusion. So 512 by 512. And bring it up there. And I don't want the whole thing. I probably just want, I don't know, maybe, let's see, maybe that. We'll see. We'll see how good this looks. Like that, maybe to there. Maybe 2 seconds worth. Okay. Control-Alt-B, Command-Option-B on Mac. And just right-click and trim comp to work area. That's what we've got. I wonder, though, maybe we should make it a little bigger. Pretty low res, but we don't really want it to go out of the edges of the frame. Now, this does luckily have an alpha channel, which is great. What we'll do now is just add that to the render queue. And I'm going to choose PNG. Now, I do want an alpha. What I'll do is actually just click on ProRes. That's one of my custom presets. And let's see, I'll choose PNG sequence and RGB plus alpha. Format options. I'm not going to compress this, just leave this as it is. That's fine. And going to put this somewhere on my hard drive. I'll put it into here and I'll call this WISP. And just drop it in here. And just name this WISP. That's fine. Okay, save. All right, so just output this. That'll render super fast. Come back to Fire, and it's going to duplicate smoke. I want to keep the original just in case this doesn't look very good. Click on Launch Particle Illusion, and let's import that. Okay, so I'll turn the bottom one off just by double-clicking over here on the left-hand side. And double-click on the particle and import the shape. Just navigate to where it was saved. WISP, 2, and bring that sequence in. Now, I could make it grayscale. I'll just keep it at full color. And 256 is fine. Click apply. And apply. Okay, so it's very difficult to see. Now, we do have the gradient applied. So what I'll do is double click on the gradient, clear that, and apply. Make sure intense is off. Come over to the emitter and make sure tint strength is 0. Okay, so let's take a look at opacity. Opacity is 100 for the emitter. What is it for the particle? 19. I've got to bring that right up. Here we go. Bring that to 100. Okay, so it's very subtle, but wow, it's moving so much more organically. What we'll do is we'll delete that one and we'll duplicate the particle type. Here we go. Okay, so the particles are rotating, so I'm actually going to get rid of one and come down to spin and just make that 0. Maybe they don't need to spin. And we have spin variation set to 10. Bring that down to 2. So there's just a touch of spin. Yeah, you do need the spin, I think. It's very subtle. You might not be able to even see it on the video. Those particles are not very bright. If we only took the very end of the wisp, it's not bad though, because we're getting actual smoke movement. The problem with the previous smoke particle was it was just a static image of smoke rotating. Whereas this has some rotation, but it's also got that natural smoke movement. Just seeing if there's anything else we can do here. Maybe we could increase the number. See if the number helps. But no, bringing it too high will look really wrong. Maybe make that 5 or even 10. Well, it's looking pretty smoky. Let's go out of particle illusion. We'll apply that. Okay. And I'm just going to duplicate it. It might be too many particles. Undo that, delete that, come back to here. I just want to check my particle properties. Number I've got set to 50. I'm going to bring number back to 100. Yeah, it's looking just a little too turbulent, isn't it? Maybe bring that back to 25. And let's try a little bit of levels. I want to bring the white. Actually, it might not work. We might have to do the alpha. Here we go. Alpha. Oops, just got to drag that up a bit. I definitely like the movement. It's looking a little ragged. I wonder if a little bit of blur might help. Let's try some BCC blur. What I want is BCC plus blur. Bring that down. Make that Gaussian and just bring that down. Remember, this is the first time I've done it with this piece of stock footage. So it's definitely got a better movement because it's actual smoke and actual multiple frames of smoke. But I think it would all depend on the kind of shot that you choose. It'd be great if there was some way of having smoke, sit in the center of the frame and just be smoke, but without having, without moving from bottom to top, without having any direction. I do like that. Let's combine it with the other one. So that's our original. There's that one. Just bring back the particle number for the second one. Gotta come into my particle properties and just bring the number down. Let's see how that looks. Yep. You can notice how now with the other one, see how they're rotating? See how they're spinning? See the difference? So I think the fire looks a lot better. The smoke, I think the stock footage definitely looks better than the standard, stationary particles. But obviously the quality of the realism will really depend on the quality of the particle. So at least now you actually know how to create a sequence and import a sequence as a particle. I suggest looking for good quality stock footage, and using those with particle illusion to really get this looking as real as possible. All right, so hopefully you found that useful. If you have a question, please leave a comment, or you can visit us on our Discord channel and ask questions there. For now, this is John from Boris Effects. I'll see you in the next tutorial.